Lūdzu, vārds Benjaminam.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be with you this morning. I'd like to thank first WIPO and the Latvian Patent Office for their kind invitation and their very strong support to prepare this presentation. I would like also to thank my friend Ruta Olman, who I see is here this morning. She's a Latvian colleague and she has helped me with some information regarding the situation in your country. I'm a private practitioner and I think my presentation will be useful after the presentations of the colleagues from WIPO and from the EYPO, because they have explained to you all the services they can provide to help you and to finance your projects. And I will try to give you some ideas of what you could do with this money or with these filing systems. And we decided to give a presentation on quality, trademarks and quality. The presentation will be mostly, I would say, live with a lot of visual information, a lot of trademarks, just to illustrate the message I want to provide to you this morning. And then more at the end, I will provide some more technical or more legal information. I hope it will not be too technical. If it is, please let me know. If you want to interrupt me, of course you can do so. If you want to disagree with me, you are welcome to do so also, because what I'm going to provide here is my opinion always. Okay, so the reason why we are here together this morning, I'd like to say, is to answer a very, very simple question. In a global, worldwide economy, sorry about that, with a lot of fierce competition, the very important question is, why would anyone buy my bread here, the one you see on the screen, and not the bread of my competitors? That's the question. And the answer to the question, which is simple, the answer is very complicated. There are many factors which will indicate why you choose to purchase this bread and not another one. Is it only because there is a wonderful lady, she's so happy to eat this bread, the bread is so good and it has changed her life? Well, that could be one reason. But as far as we are concerned, I believe that intellectual property is a very important reason why we will choose this bread and not other breads. If you look at the packaging of this product, I see here a number of intellectual property rights, and in particular, and that is the focus today, of trademark rights. The first trademark right I see here is this trademark and logo, which identifies the producer of the bread. It's a basic trademark. But I see also, if you look here, a logo in the shape of a leaf with stars, which I might recognize as a consumer, that indicates to me that this product I'm going to buy and eat is organic. And what I'm seeing also next to this logo is here another logo, which is bio. And possibly it also explains to me that I'm going to have the opportunity here to buy a healthy product produced with, not with chemicals, etc. And if you look very, very carefully, there is another trademark on the packaging, and it's right there on the side package, on the side label, is this, two arrows logo, what we call the green dot, which you see on many, many packaging, on many products all the time. And this indicates to you that somehow the packaging used for this bread can be recycled. It will not create unnecessary waste. And you like to see this information. So when I'm in my supermarket and I need to buy some bread because my wife has asked me to buy some bread, one of the reasons why I would choose this bread and not the others, because it has a lot of trademarks that for me talk about quality, the quality of the product. And this is essential. I don't buy today, the public does not buy a piece of bread only because it's good. When you buy bread, you buy sustainability, local farming, organic food, etc. And all this information is essential to the public, and it's there on the packaging with quality marks. Okay, so I'd like to go more into illustrating this. You remember the logo, the main brand of this package, well, this Mestermacher trademark is a trademark which is registered, in this case, through WIPO. It is subject of an international trademark, and it is what we call, in trademark law, an individual trademark. The function of this trademark is to tell you when you purchase that the product comes from this company or the company behind this trademark. And if you are happy with the purchase of the bread last week, you will again buy the same packaging with the same brand. So that is the very basic trademark, and it's 90% or 95 or 7% of the trademarks are individual trademarks. Normally, they are not signs of the quality, but they can be used as signs of quality. I will explain that later. The second trademark we saw on the packaging is this very famous organic leaf. It's a logo of the European Union. Okay, it is registered also as a trademark. It was registered actually twice by the European Union, I mean in the name of the European Union. First, it was registered as a collective trademark. I will get back to this later on, but this trademark was killed by someone because it was not used properly. It was not used as a collective trademark. And for a few years now, it has been protected in the EU as a certification trademark. And what is a certification trademark? It's a trademark that indicates to you, the public, the consumers, that the product you're buying or using complies with a number of characteristics which are defined precisely in regulations of use. I can't put freely this logo, of course, on my products if my products do not comply with EU regulations on organic food production. Okay. So this certification mark has been used for many years, but it is protected for a few years only in the EU because the certification trademark scheme was only created very recently. It's an innovation of 2015 in the EU. And I was told by my friend Ruta that also in Latvia, you have incorporated a new certification trademark scheme. So also in Latvia, you can register this type of mark. The third trademark that we saw on the packaging and which also helped us choosing this product and not other products was this bio logo, which actually comes from a German company. And it is used also as a certification trademark. People can only use it if they comply with the conditions of use, of production, the raw material, etc., which are defined in the regulation of use of the owner of this trademark. However, surprisingly, this trademark, which actually is registered by the state of Germany, the German state, is not registered properly in the EU. It is registered as an individual trademark. However, it is used as a certification trademark. So this trademark, in my view, can be cancelled at any time by anybody. What I want to say to you here is that when people think of trademarks, I'm going to file trademarks, you need to think first of what you're going to do. And that was explained, I think, properly in the previous presentations. You need to avoid problems by doing the right consultations beforehand, before filing. In this case, this trademark is not filed properly in the EU, and it is not enforceable, in my opinion. And the final trademark that I spotted on that packaging of bread is this Grünpunkt, the green dot. So here it's in black and white because that's how it is registered. in the EU. So this one is interesting. It's not an individual trademark. It's not a certification trademark. It's what we call a collective mark. A collective mark is a mark that identifies the goods and services not of your company, but of the members of an association, of a group of entities. So in this case, all the companies that wish to indicate that they recycle their trademarks, their packaging in a given fashion, they can take part of this system of recycling, and then they can use afterwards this typical logo. Okay. In this case, it works with a licensing system. You produce your stuff in Latvia. You want to use this logo, you need to join a specific licensing system, and then you can affix this brand on your packaging. So it's collective mark because it's used collectively by the members of the association, if the association is the owner, or by people who join a specific scheme. Normally these schemes are public, but in this case it's a private scheme. Okay, so we have seen one packaging, and we didn't have only one trademark, but we have 4 trademarks, and all of them play their specific role. So this being said, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about 3 things. I will talk to you about private quality schemes, then about European quality schemes, which are public quality schemes, and then we will talk about geographical marks. Can trademarks be used as geographical marks? That's an interesting point. For example, I don't know, a trademark made in Latvia or Latvian beer or whatever, would that be a proper trademark in the EU today? So what is interesting is that normally private quality trademarks normally are subject of collective marks. They are used by a number of companies. In this case, you have an example with a trademark, the chocolate whale, which is protected in the EU, and it's registered by an association, okay, which I think is based in Italy. And you, as a chocolate producer, if you want to use this logo, if you want to be part of this association and produce your chocolate bars in a specific way, which is sustainable, which respects tradition, etc., then you can join the association, comply with the regulation of use, and use the trademark. So this trademark is collective. Why? Because it is used by a lot of companies, not by one company. Okay, it's a quality mark to be shared. And as it is shared, it's a collective mark. But in some cases, and it could be interesting to you too, in some cases, individual marks, I would say private marks or private labels, can exist and can be protected as individual marks. And here is, I think, a very interesting example. The very famous and big chocolate producer Lindt uses this logo you see here as a quality mark. So Lindt does not sell the product or its product using this logo as the trademark that identifies each of its products, but it is used as a logo for all its products to say that it promotes a fair farming program, which will, provide education to the producers, pay them properly, make sure that their productions of cocoa are sustainable, etc., etc. But it's a private label. It's only for Lindt itself and only to be used on its own products. So this is, I would say, the exception to the rule. Normally, individual trademarks have as the main function, what we call in trademark law, the essential function, is to indicate the origin of the goods. The goods come from Lindt. But in this case, it plays also a very important role of quality. Okay, And this is how it works in practice. In practice, when you go to the website of Lind, where you would get the message on the right, and you would get videos and promotion, and they would explain what they are doing with this farming program. They want their clients to know that they are not a huge European company which treats badly the producers of chocolate. No, they are doing these programs and they show it. Because intellectual property is about showing what you're doing. You as SMEs, you would not enter into all these quality programs if you don't share it with your clients. That's the essence. So if Lind promotes a fair farming program, it is sharing it with its customers on the website and of course on the packaging of its products. And this is where you have here a number of logos, and the first one is the one which is protected here as a trademark. Okay, that's why, and that's where IP is important. You want quality, you develop quality, you communicate quality, and you protect that quality. In this case, with a private label, in the case of the Chocolate Way, with a collective label. And all these are private initiatives. And then also we have public initiatives to protect quality in the EU. And one of these public initiatives in the EU is the protection of what is called traditional specialties guaranteed. It's known by the initials TSG. And this Latvian cheese, which Itzel told me would be soon eaten in June, I guess, in Latvia, is an expression which is protected in the EU as a traditional specialty guarantee. That means that nobody in the EU can produce cheese using this name, Jāņu Zirs, without respecting the recipe, the traditional recipe to produce this cheese. Okay? And I guess, same as my bread, it is very successful because, again, this lady is very happy to have this and cheese and to offer it to her friends and neighbors. Again. So I think it's very interesting to communicate always the presence on the packaging of the official European logo is very useful because it shows quality. What do we have as EU quality schemes? And as you can see, my Latvian is very good. I have translated the expressions from English to Latvian. We have three main quality schemes in the EU. The two ones on the left have a lot of common, and the one on the right is the TSG I told you just before. On the left, we have what we call the family of geographical indications. Geographical indication is when a specific area, region, place has some reputation, history, etc., in the production of a specific good, and this is protected. If the link to the origin is very strong, it will be protected as a protected designation of origin. That's what you see here on the left with the red logo. If the link to the origin is not so strong or does not concern all the steps of production, you can protect what we call a protected geographical indication, a PGI. Okay. Examples you know a lot, but for example, the French Champagne is probably the most famous one in Europe. Okay, Champagne is protected in the EU as a PDO. And I saw that in Latvia you have some of these geographical indications protected, not many, but a few of them for some foodstuff from Latvia. So think of it. It is extremely useful to enter into these quality schemes. That helps a lot the promotion of your products, the access to other markets. And of course, any Latvian, city, region, which would be protected by an EU scheme, in recognition of a historical link with a number of products, these names are protected in all the EU. You would not be allowed to use the same names elsewhere to manufacture the same kind of goods. So it is extremely important. And it's EU-wide, it's only one registration in the EU. However, the one on the right, the one of the cheese I showed you before, the traditional specialty guaranteed, is not geographically protected. What is protected is the recipe. It is very important because that means that if I want to produce the same cheese here in Alicante at nearly 3,000 kilometers from Riga, I am allowed to do so. The traditional specialty guarantee does not give you an indication of where the cheese is produced. It tells you how the cheese is produced. One famous example would be the pizza napolitane. If you go to a restaurant and ask for a pizza napolitane, normally, if it's made properly, it should be made in accordance with the regulation, which is embodied into the TSG pizza napolitane. It's a very precise definition of how you produce the pizza. I'm not sure that everyone respects it, but that is the theory. Okay, so this is what I wanted to share on these EU quality schemes, which are very useful. And also, I'd like to say a few things about geographical marks. Geographical marks are, I would say, my baby, but I'm not a happy father. I will explain to you why. The idea of geographical marks is the following. In addition to protecting geographical names as geographical indications, as PDOs and PGIs, as I explained before, could we also protect these geographical names as trademarks? Why not? And actually, it is very important to bear in mind that in the EU, in the EU IPO, and also in Latvia, with the new trademark law that was adopted, you can register trademarks which are descriptive of the geographical origin of the goods. This is legally permitted. It is an exception to the basic legal criteria, which is normally when a term is descriptive, you cannot protect it. But there is an exception. If it is geographically descriptive, you can protect it. But only as a collective mark, because that's a mark that you're going to share with other producers that come from the same area. So let me tell you a story about this. That's the story of halloumi, which you see here on the left side of the screen. Halloumi is the name given to a cheese which is produced in Cyprus. Cyprus has this typical cheese, which is made for many, many years. It's a cheese which is very good for barbecues. You can put it on a barbecue, it will not melt. And as you can see actually on the picture, so it's very much used also as a substitute for meat now in some countries for barbecues, but without meat. And the halloumi, they have tried to obtain a protection as a PDO, as a geographical indication in the EU for many, many, many years. And for some very, very political reasons, this process of protecting halloumi was delayed. And it was not until, I think, last month that halloumi is now officially a PDO in the European Union. But of course, for the producers of halloumi, for the Cyprus government, the question was, what do we do in the meantime? Well, until this process is over, we are going to protect halloumi as a geographical mark in the EU IPO. And that's what they did. Halloumi, the word halloumi, is a collective mark in the EU. And it was registered in spite of being descriptive because it is geographically descriptive. It designates a cheese that comes specifically from Cyprus. So far, so good. We have geographical marks in the EU. However, these geographical marks have been killed by, and I'm sorry to say so to Sébastien, by the EU IPO and afterwards by the European courts. The EU IPO and after the European courts have decided that, well, yes, you have a trademark halloumi. We have accepted it because there is this geographical exception. But however, it is a very, very weak trademark. There's nothing you can do with it. You cannot enforce halloumi because really it's a geographical term. And then comes my question. I mean, if you do not enforce halloumi, why do you protect halloumi in the first place? Just to get the money? For what? And halloumi has been suffering of this disaster for 10 years now. Halloumi has tried to prevent the registration of a lot of trademarks that imitate halloumi, and unfortunately without success. A good illustration of this is the trademark you see on the right, BBQ Lumi. BBQ Lumi is, of course, a derivative of halloumi, playing with the barbecue and the fact that this cheese is perfect for barbecues. Okay, well, this case was fought up until the Court of Justice without success by the Cyprus government, because in the end, the EU IPO said, no, we don't give you protection, and the Court of Justice, General Court and the Court of Justice said, no, we don't give you protection. They say, yes, indeed, you have registered the trademark because there was an exception allowing you to register this descriptive term. But however, the trademark also must be distinctive, and this one is not distinctive, your trademark. So I leave this to you. The only thing you need to bring home today is that we don't have today in the EU a proper system of geographical marks. I'm not saying that we should have one or not have one. What I'm saying is that if we have one apparently, but do not give it any effect, that is not correct. And this is what is happening. So I have used here an example. This is another geographical mark registered with the EU IPO as a collective mark. There are many, many geographical marks registered as collective marks in the EU IPO. And again, the owners of this trademark, probably they believe that they have somehow consolidate a exclusive right over maple herbs in the EU, and that would prevent anyone from using maple herbs, for example, not coming from Nepal. But the answer, unfortunately, is no. This trademark is registered, but it is worth nothing today for its owner. Or if it is worth anything, it's maybe only because there is a logo, the mountains and the leaf, but this is not very distinctive, that's very basic. So maybe somehow the layout of this brand could be protected today under EU law and case law, but not the geographical term itself. And it's a problem. I don't know if in the Latvian GIs, if you use specific logos. But if you do, well, the only way to protect the logo of your GI would be through a trademark. You cannot protect the logo through the GI registration itself. But at the same time, they say to you that, anyway, these trademarks are not distinctive and they can't give you real protection. So the situation is not satisfactory in my opinion. Okay, so let's move on. And this is now the resume of all we've said so far. And maybe this, as mentioned, you will have the presentation, and I think this is useful for you to really take into account what kind of trademarks exist in European law, in Latvian law, and when should I use one or the other. That's very important. You cannot imagine the number of people, including professionals, that don't know where the difference between each of these trademarks. So this is very important. When you think of quality and you think of quality marks, then you have to think which trademark is the good one for me. So the one on the left, you have all recognized. I like very much this trademark because you can see that a very simple logo, 3 circles, can be a very strong trademark, and that's Mickey Mouse. So that's an individual trademark. It normally distinguishes distinguishes your products from the other products, those of your competitors. Then you have the new system of certification marks. Certification marks is very important. The owner of the certification mark cannot use the certification mark. The owner is neutral. The owner is the one that defines the rules. It says to you, you will use this trademark if you comply with this and that condition. And then it is used by a number of companies that want to be certified. So for example, this trademark 18 here is a certificate mark filed by a British company for film producers, etc. So if you sell a DVD with a movie that, for example, is only certified for over 18 years old, so you know what kind of movie I'm telling you, that logo, you could affix that logo on your DVD, and it is a certification mark. It is certified, it's okay for over 18. And you have the same trademark for over 14 and the same trademark for over 7. All these signs you see on the packaging, not on bread, but anything, all these are trademarks. Then you have the collective marks. The collective marks, as I said, is used by a group of producers, normally in the form of associations. For example, here, you have an example of a plastics imagine the potential when you see what it is. Producers of plastic goods that want to fight against the bad image of plastic today. They want to promote the image of plastic and of their products, and they have created an association. And they will use, under a number of conditions, the trademark plastics imagine the potential on their products, on their brochures, on their website, etc. Okay, so that's quality, that's promotion of quality, whether we like plastic or not, but that's promotion of quality of this specific category of producers. All these trademarks, individual certification and collective marks, are now available in the EU. Okay, anybody can file an individual trademark. A certification mark can be filed only by those who are not using the trademark. And collective marks must be filed by associations of producers or public entities which have an associative form in theory. I mean, there are a lot of people cheating here, but it's too technical to talk about this today. For an individual trademark, there's nothing to do. It's very simple, but for the other trademarks, you need to have a regulation of use. I will get back to this. And then we have the final category of marks, the geographical mark, which, as I said, in the EU exists in theory, but in practice is dead. So that's why I said a no here. One very famous example for the French, at least, is Comté. The best cheese in the world, after the one I showed before from Lekcija. But the second best in the world is Comté. And Comté is very known also for the bell, which is in all the cheese. And this is a collective mark in the name of the producers of Comté. And in Latvia, I have put some question marks because in Latvia, you have adopted the same system as in the EU. So you have the geographical exception in the Latvian trademark law today. But I don't know what the Latvian office and the Latvian courts will do with it. So question mark today. Okay. The regulation of use, I will not talk too much about this because it's a bit technical, but the regulation of use is a document of a few pages, which is filed with the trademark and in which you explain, well, for example, the name of the applicant, the sign which is going to be certified, for which goods you're going to certify. And the most important element, of course, is the characteristics. When I certify plastics, do I certify any plastic? No, I certify plastic made in such and such a way. And of course, these normally are very technical developments. You also have to put in particular the persons authorized, or for example, anybody complying with or paying the fee, etc. And sanctions, if there are some sanctions, if somebody does not respect the way the trademark should be used. And also how the controls will be conducted. When you have a certification mark, there must be controls. Okay, so if you use on your bread packaging the bio logo, you could expect at any stage some control from, in this case, the German state to make sure that you are producing the bread properly in accordance with the rules. So we are close to the end, and this is, again, I join here what was said by my colleagues before. When you think of trademarks, don't rush and file a trademark. You need to make sure first, you need to check a few things in advance. And the very first question, which is often missed by a lot of people, and this is, if you remember something of that presentation, this is what I hope you remember. What is the purpose of this trademark? What kind of mark it is, and in particular, what kind of quality mark is it? And therefore, you will define its nature, and you will decide if it's an individual collective certification or maybe a geographical mark. If you don't do this effort, then what you do afterwards is probably wrong. And then, of course, as for any kind of distinctive sign, is my trademark distinctive? I cannot protect cheese for cheese. Is it legal? I cannot protect cocaine for, I guess, any kind of product. Is it available? I cannot protect Champagnola for sparkling wine today. I will infringe the PDO champagne. So all this, of course, normally you need the assistance of a lawyer. So as Sebastian said before, a pro bono lawyer or a lawyer that would which fees will be paid in part by the EU IPOs thanks to the fund, or by me, but it will be maybe a bit more expensive. And in this case, I showed an example of something which I think was wrong. It's a trademark growing green in Latvia. This trademark is no longer in force. It was abandoned. I don't read Latvian, of course, but I think it was held by a state entity or at least an organization, but it was registered as an individual trademark. And I think that most probably this trademark was not supposed to be an individual trademark, but I suspect that it was supposed to be a collective mark shared by a number of producers from Latvia. And in this case, this trademark was worth nothing for its enforcement. So just to show, if I'm not wrong, why you need to think very carefully before proceeding. And with this, I think I've done my time. So the conclusion is very simple. Quality is required by your consumers. You cannot work without quality. And quality must be visible. It makes no sense to work on your quality if you don't communicate on your quality. And therefore, quality is intellectual property. Communicating through intellectual property with these quality marks. And this is it for my presentation. I thank you for your attention, and I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Liels paldies par prezentāciju. Tā bija ļoti interesanta un informatīva. Žēl, ka neesat pie mums Latvijā. Noteikti iedot pagaršot Jāņu sieru, nodegustēt. Vai kādam ir kādi jautājumi šobrīd? Man ir viens jautājums. Man droši vien kā patērētājiem, kas varbūt pirmo reizi dzird par šīm kvalitātes zīmēm, vai kvalitāte tiek pārbaudīta? Piemēram, ja es gribētu reģistrēt zīmi bio, un vai kāds pārbauda, vai tiešām tie produkti būtu bio?
Well, thank you. It will be your responsibility. If you register a bio trademark, it will be probably a certification mark to be used by others. And in this regulation of use, which will be filed with your trademark, you will explain how the controls will be conducted. But it is your responsibility. If you want your certification mark to be a good one, to be serious, and if you want people to join your certification scheme, of course, you have to have a good quality regulation and good controls. So that's how it should work.
Paldies par atbildi. Jā, jautājumu nav. Tad es teikšu lielu paldies par jūsu attālināto klātesamību. Prieks, ka vismaz šādā veidā varējām noorganizēt semināru. Es vēlos teikt lielu paldies,